I recently hit top 250 Celestial with no legendaries, so I wanted to make a guide showing exactly how I did it. I'm going to go over the deck list, general game plan, replacements, or upgrades you can make if you have better cards. The general plan is to control the board early while getting to level 4 as fast as you can. This deck is built around the level 4 upgrade Artificer. This creates a random construct, and these are really big creatures, such as the Titan, Dragon Golem, or the Glyph Cart Golem. Constructs also come with Protector. Once you get to that level 4, you can stabilize the board, build an advantage, and close out a game with this ability. You almost always want to take Artificer at level 4. At level 2, it's always going to be Master of Magic. The spell power helps with stabilizing the board. Level 3 is a pretty tough decision in a lot of games. Meta Magic will often be the pick if you already have spells in your hand. On the other hand, if your hand has a lot of creatures or you don't have the spells that you need, Logistics will help you dig for those. In order to get to these upgrades, I run 2 copies of Stone of Enlightenment, 2 copies of Jin Mentor. Jin Mentor is one of the few essential rares because the deck is playing around that level 4 upgrade. The deck can function without it, however, I don't think it would be quite a Celestial level deck. Overall, the deck is built to get yourself EXP while kill your opponent's units or slow them down using direct damage, stuns, and protector units. Going through buildings and creatures, I run 1 copy of Temple. I'd run a second, but I only have 1. This card is amazing for getting you to the late game. I've had games where it's given my hero over 20 health, and it can make your protectors really hard to get through. 1 copy of Chronicler. The card's situational because of the 1 gold gen, but it can synergize with your removal spells. You can protect it with a big protector, and it can get you 3 or 4 shelves in a single turn. 2 copies of the Obsidian Gargoyle, a really cheap protector, immune to spells, and can help you contest the board early. I run 1 copy of Scholar. I would run a second one, but I don't have one. This synergizes with the Stolen Enlightenment as well as the Jin Mentor. Being a 3/4 going up to a 5/6 after your hero attacks is amazing for a 3-drop. My replacements for the extra copy of Scholar are the Wizard Disciples. Wizard Disciple can grow fairly big just like the Scholar, it just doesn't grow quite as fast. The deck does run a lot of spells, however, so this can get up to 8/8, 9/9 stats by the late game. I run 2 copies of Arcane Archer. In some cases, Arcane Archer can solo a game as long as he can be behind a protector and shooting off all of the creatures that your opponent plays. The Rakshasa Raja does pretty much the same thing. The upside is that it has 3 more life, but the downside is that it can't hit flying targets as well as having 1 additional cost. And then finally, a Titan and a copy of the Dragon Golem. Titan is a really big protector. Enemy units will have to trade into it themselves, and this lets you use your Arcane Archer and Rakshasa Raja to hit off their other units while they're trading into the Titan. And this can really help stabilize the board quickly. The Dragon Golem, on the other hand, is a much more proactive play because you can't play it with the other units, and it's a really good turn 1 play whenever you have initiative, or anytime the board is clear. If you have initiative, you can just drop the Dragon Golem. This will prevent the opponent from playing too many spells on their turn, force them to try and build a board, and then you can clear out that board using your spells or units on the next turn. Moving on to the spells, I have 1 copy of Wind Arrows. This isn't really essential to the deck, but with the cost reduction of the hero, having a 0 cost card that's not only a spell that can give the Wizard Disciple +1, but can also make either the Disciple or the Scholar range so that they don't take retaliation damage, can be very strong. And this is what really enables these units to run away with a game if they get more than like 6 worth of stats, because then they're going to be killing your unit every single turn. It's very hard for the opponent to deal with them if you get some protectors out. 2 copies of Campfire. So this not only helps counteract a lot of the burn-based Academy decks and Inferno decks, also helps a lot with a big protector like the Titan or the Dragon Golem. It can usually survive for the whole combat and make life really difficult for your opponent, especially if you have something like an Arcane Archer or Rakshasa Raja behind it as well. I play 1 copy of Inheritance. This is just a placeholder card because I don't have better cards, but it can synergize well with the Wizard Disciple because most of the time you're paying this 2 gold this turn for 2 gold on the next turn, plus giving your Wizard Disciple a +1. It can synergize with your level 3 upgrade, making it 1 cost card that gives you 2 extra gold on the next turn, as well as an extra card to play. I run 2 copies of Slow. This card is definitely an MVP of the deck. Most of the time, I will be using this on the enemy hero to prevent them from doing damage, to prevent them from leveling up and outpacing my hero's levels. A lot of the decks can close out a game quickly if they can get to level 3 or 4, and Slow can prevent them from doing that. The tactical shots are very good synergy, very cheap removal. It does 3 damage once you get level 2. It can be 1 cost once you get level 3. These deal with a lot of the problem creatures in the game. Same thing with Lightning Bolt. It costs 1 more but does 1 more damage. They can hit the enemy hero, so a lot of the time if you don't need to use them early games, that can close out a game that would have otherwise been difficult. Pillage is the only epic that I run in the deck. This is invaluable in the Arcane and Inferno matchups. A lot of decks run the Elemental Ring, and a lot of the Inferno decks run the Gorada Rael. You really need to be able to stop those before they get out of hand. Otherwise, your level 4 upgrade isn't going to be able to compete with these insane value artifacts. Rally Flag is here really just for the utility of gaining initiative. This can help you close out a game. Sometimes it can help remove a unit that would otherwise be clearing your board. Blast of Wind is the final rare in the deck. The deck does function without it, but it is much weaker and you'll have a lot harder of a time healing with giant units. Level 1 combos that you want to look for are the Rakshasa Raja plus the Jinn. Another one, getting the Arcane Archer plus Obsidian Golem plus a Stone of Enlightenment. That'll get you EXP, as well as setting up a board that's hard to break through and can deal with their board. Having a Scholar plus a Stone plus some removal in your hand can also be turn 1. Or if you have initiative, Dragon Golem plus Stone or Dragon Golem plus Inheritance is also a great turn 1. Once you get into around level 2 or 3, you can start to aggressively look for these XP cards, the Stone and the Jinn, because the faster you get to level 4, the less work you have to do clearing up the enemy board beforehand. To not lose the game while you're playing these, you'll usually play cards like Slow and Blast of Wind, as well as your removals. And Rakshasa is a great card to play at any time, unless you're trying to deal with enemy flyers or a Haven deck that has protectors with Holy Shield. If you manage to build up a Wizard Disciple or Scholar early and they get to be over 6/6 in stats, you can start pivoting to an all-in strategy. There aren't a lot of removals in the game that can deal with units that big. Necro is one of the only decks that has something like that. You can start playing taunts and use your campfires to heal them, or use wind arrows to prevent them from taking retaliation damage. You can use Rally Flag to get advantageous combats. Those can really snowball out of control even without the level 4 upgrade. Generally, once you get level 4, things are pretty smooth sailing. You want to remove all their creatures whenever they play it with your spells, and stun or slow any of the ones that you can't kill. One thing to keep in mind is the Haven deck will get their hero to over 10 attack with their legendary, and you want to save slows and blast of winds as well as obsidian gargoyles for later turns when they can start one or two shotting your hero. So moving on to replacements. Instead of slow, the Ogre's Club can work. One thing is that having one gold gen cards is very risky. Sometimes you'll draw it when you would otherwise have a perfect hand, and it can mess everything up. I try to keep my one gold gen cards to a minimum if I can. The Giant Turtle can be a good replacement for the Protector card, the Dragon Golem, or the Titan. It does have less attack, but it costs less, and it'll usually do an equally good job in protecting your hero. If you don't have the Blast of Wind, I recommend running some sort of Dispel to make their big creatures weaker. Something like the Lesser Shadow Elemental, or Arcanomancer, or the Dispel Magic can work. If you don't have Pillage, you can run Osmotic Breeder. This can also destroy enemy artifacts. It is an Inferno card, so you will get one less gold gen when you run it in an Academy deck, but you need a way of dealing with those big artifacts. If you don't have the gens, I would try running something that can draw you some cards. For example, the Chronicler, the Spirit Traveler, if you have one, can help draw you towards those plus XP spells. I would cut the Scholar from your deck if you are missing the gens. The other option is the Wizard Tutor, which can shelve a spell card and hopefully get you to the XP spells faster as well. If you have none of these, then I would try and play a card that can contest the board better, such as the Rogue Mercenary and Snowball on the board, so you have more time to get level 4 instead. And finally, for potential upgrades, a few cards that I would definitely play if I had them are Akane, Caller of Memories. This card lets you easily take back the board the next turn after it dies. Another card that I would definitely play if I had it is the Shinoshi. This can wipe the board, often does the same thing as the Blast of Wind, but better, dealing with a bunch of creatures at once. It does cost 11, so you do have to play for the level 3 Shelva card more often, but it's such a strong card that I think I would be willing to make that sacrifice. I would definitely play 2 copies of Lightning Burst if I had them. This card does a great job of dealing with wide boards. It's efficient and can deal with medium-sized creatures as well. I would probably run a second copy of Blast of Wind. This card has been insane. I don't think I would run Chain Lightning or Implosion in this deck because of the 1 gold gen and don't do enough when your game plan is trying to get to level 4. I might run a second Pillage if I had one. It depends on the meta. Some of the artifact decks are very hard to deal with without this card. If you're facing those decks often, a second copy would be good. As for buildings, another copy of Temple would be very strong. This card has won me a lot of games, and if you can get it beside a Protector and your hero, it becomes very hard to kill you before you hit level 4. And finally, I wouldn't run any artifact other than potentially the Bag of Gold. So that about wraps it up for the deck guide. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Thanks for watching.